I actually think Silverwolf benefited the most from the 3.4 buffs, so I guess I'm starting with her. Very quickly, the changes are the ultimate is now AoE, the base chance is higher, the weakness implant now prioritizes the first ally character in the lineup, and the weakness implant can be transferred prioritizing elite targets or greater, which is very helpful. The defense got buffed a little bit by 4%. You now also get 50% attack for pretty much free. And finally, the most important change, she now regenerates 20 energy at the start of the battle and 5 energy at the start of her own turn. Silverwolf's greatest weakness before her buff was her ultimate and her honestly lousy energy rotations, and this changes directly addresses that while also allowing her to build more offensively because you now require less effective rate, and the 50% attack boost is like the cherry on top to help Silverwolf deal some more damage. Playing the new Silverwolf isn't super complicated thankfully. Firstly, thanks to the 20 energy, Silverwolf can now consistently do a 1-turn ultimate even with just a basic attack at the start of the battle. If you want to start with a basic attack, you do need the extra 5% energy regen from the planar ornament because otherwise you would be very slightly off. I guess you can leave it to RNG or just use her skill instead, but because this allows her to be played SP positive at the start of rotation in addition to Sprightly just being kinda OP, I still recommend grabbing Sprightly so your rotations are easier. After the first ultimate, there are two main ways to play her, the super fast Eagle tutorial spam or the slower setup. To be very honest, even though the Eagle spam setup should technically be better, you don't really need that many actions for most other teams. The only team that really lacks it is Acheron because it's applying debuffs which counts as stacks for Acheron. For other teams and units, honestly, as long as you apply Silverwolf's debuff before you get your damage out, it's also completely fine. Basically, she just has to be faster than your team. I guess if the boss is able to take many turns very quickly, like Kule, then even outside of Acheron teams, an Eagle spam setup can be good to maintain the debuffs, but it's a pretty rare scenario. Anyways, for the Eagle spam build, it's obviously using before the tutorial mission starts because it gives so much energy and ideally with Sprightly and Dance as well to make your life even easier. The idea is you use your 1-turn ultimate and from there, Sprightly, Eagle and sometimes Dance allows Silverwolf to take 2 extra turns in the 0th cycle, which will fully regenerate her ultimate. You can use it on wave 1, but I would advise you to save it for wave 2 because there are new enemies and Silverwolf needs to reapply her ultimate, her defense reduction. And if you are running Eagle, it will help her by advancing her action again to the first turn. She normally already gets 2 turns, so this means Silverwolf can regenerate 1 more ultimate after the second, and then the combined double Eagle advance allows Silverwolf to take 1 last turn in 150 action value or total of 300 action value. Don't worry, I've already done the speed tuning for you. The left side you can do regardless of your light cone, it doesn't have to be tutorial. On the right side, the 300 action value section is only possible with 3 action advance from Eagle, so it has to be tutorial. So overall, how good are these Silverwolf buffs? In an Acheron team, Silverwolf gets a very massive 75% buff. She goes from borderline users to instantly one of the best supports for Acheron. Her rotations are pretty clean now. I mean, they have access to a pretty bastard light cone in tutorial, and you combine that with Eagle, you get a really good support for Acheron. One of the big reasons why it's such a huge boost for Acheron other than her ultimate being AoE is because Silverwolf was able to push Acheron to just about 3 ultimates because she can use 2 ultimates in the first cycle. Overall, I think the buffs are really good and Silverwolf has become a very good meta unit again. I think Silverwolf's main appeal is being a universal support that can help in brute forcing because she can reduce the resistance of the weakness that she implants. I think she's balanced around this idea actually because she's kind of like Cypher in the sense that she has very few best in slot teams but can be used to pretty good in fact in most other teams. I still don't think she is as good as units like 3B, Robin, Sunday, RMC, the really crazy support units that completely dominate the meta right now. Hence, I think around 0.5 for both Memory of Chaos and Apocalyptic Shadow is pretty fair. Though if you argued for her being tier 0 or tier 1, I wouldn't really disagree with you either. Pure Fiction, like I said, is really bad. She's just not made for the game mode. I would put her in tier 4 or 5. With that out of the way, let's go over Silverwolf's updated builds. Let's start with Light Cones. This was calculated in an Acheron team, so tutorial with Eagle is best in slot. The next best light cone is Cypher's signature. It's probably the best general nihility light cone right now. A ton of speed and easy to apply defense reduction. Even down 1 whole Acheron ultimate, it's still very competitive with tutorial, which really goes to show how insane this light cone is. Afterwards, we have Pulse S5, which is just a budget version of Cypher's cone, followed by the new Battle Pass light cone at S3, and unfortunately Silverwolf's signature, Incessant Rain, is actually one of the worst choices. The vulnerability applies is actually single target and for a very short duration. Honestly, I think they should have adjusted the light cone too, because if you pulled her S1 in the past, it's just kinda useless now. Finally, we have In the Name of the World as the worst performing light cone, once again because Silverwolf's damage is quite negligible compared to increasing Acheron or even Treebeast's damage, for example. For Relic sets, its crit rate or effective rate body, this depends on your light cone. If, for example, you're using Tutorial, which already has a massive 40% effective rate boost, just to go for offensive stats because overcapping on effective rate does absolutely nothing. If your light cone doesn't have effective rate, like Cypher's S1, you should then use a effective rate body to hit 66.7% because this guarantees her talent's debuff, followed by obviously speed boots and then a quantum damage orb. I found it to deal slightly more damage than an attack orb, but once again Silverwolf does quite little damage, so if you need extra defense or HP, it's also completely fine. Finally, ER robe is pretty much a must to allow for her smooth rotations, otherwise it's pretty much the same as playing Silverwolf without her buffs. The relic sets I recommend are, to no one's surprise, Eagle and Sprightly. They just make your life extremely easy. You can actually deal more damage than sub DPS setups because you get more ultimates in the same period of time. Overall, it's just the best combination, but if you want to run a sub DPS build, I found Pioneer to be better if your light cone doesn't have effective rate, because you will naturally get less crit substats. If you already have good crit rate like 70+%, Genius will perform fine. But once again, the difference is very small, so I honestly do not think it matters which you choose. Finally, for stat goals, around 67.7% effective rate at all times. From there, the speed tuning for your setup. Next, we have updated Eidolons. They actually changed E2 and E4. E2 is a lot less useless now because it just reduces effective rest by 20% previously. Now it's 20% vulnerability, which is quite nice for your damage, but it's not a whole lot. Implanting bugs at a faster rate doesn't do a whole lot in terms of damage because he has attack and speed reduction, which doesn't really do much for your damage, so it's still not the best E2. E4 was simply adjusted to account for her ultimate now being AoE, meaning you can get up to 500% additional attack if there are 5 enemies, which is quite nice. I think the best Eidolon is still E1 because it can reduce your ultimate duration by 1. With Tutorial, you can actually get a 1-turn ultimate, but you have to use your skill every turn, which means it's not super viable unfortunately. But for non-tutorial light cones, they can now also get a 2-turn ultimate, which is why I used Cypher's light cone for E1 onwards, because it achieves the same effect in terms of rotation while providing more defense reduction, or rather more utility. Teams are also pretty easy. It's still kind of the same as before, as the core mechanics of a kit was unchanged, but her versatility allows her to be played with pretty much every team in the game. Tele, Jingyuan, Blade, so on. I just think these teams are the more notable ones for now. That's pretty much it for buffed Silverwolf, short and sweet. Honestly, not a whole lot to talk about because they didn't change her much. Thanks for watching and see you.